Hotep. It kind of has a bad connotation in some quarters. Have you noticed that? Um, I don't know why. I first heard about it. I think I think Dr. Ben is probably the best African-centered scholar ambassador because Dr. Ben went all around the country. He took he took hundreds of people to Egypt, and he lectured at a lot of like colleges, universities. Wose, I think when Dr. Ben came to Wose in 1982, I think he put us on the map with the cultural community. We were, and he started talking about people like Imhotep and different folks and stuff that they weren't teaching in the classroom yet, which they're trying to stop now. They're trying to stop. So hey, so let's get started. Unless there's something that someone would like to say before we begin. Glad to see Sebastian. All right. Yeah. All righty then. Hey, it's gonna. So, did everybody see that? I'm hoping. So, the meaning of the word Hotep. That's what we're talking about tonight. And this is how it appears in glyph. You know, this is an offering table or mat. And this loaf is a T, and this box is a P. And that's how it would appear in glyph. So, um, you know, there's so many conflicting views on what it means and different things. So I asked some friends familiar with the subject, and this is what one wrote. It says, has many meanings according to the context: completion, satisfied, fulfilled, food, peace, not like salam as greeting, and most importantly, sacrifice. Imhotep was not a name, but a title of the master of healing school using sound at Saqqara. Both men and women were the Imhotep. The word today refers to a male, i.e., man of peace, man of food, and the one who sacrifices for others. Originally was not gender-based, and men and women could be the Imhotep. Here, Yusuf Awayan sits where the Imhotep would sit to oversee healings done by sound. So I put myself in that picture. I went up and sat there. And this is where, okay, so the Imhotep would sit here. One of the physicians would put his head in this niche in here, and the patient would stand on this platform, and there's only like 3 left, but there were like 24, I think, when this was really functioning. And by that person standing here and him putting his head in this niche, he could see what was going on in the person's body. Then I asked someone else, I said, hey, in ancient times, did people say Hotep, like they say, salam or salam alaikum. And then he wrote back, he says, Happy New Year. It was around New Year's when he says, the common greeting was Nej ek, light and peace to you. Nej ek. So, but in general, Hotep means peace, contentment, offering. Ran across this definition. Hotep does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. And there's different ways to write it. So some people say Hetep, some people say Hotep. It's just really three consonants, and they put these vowels in as place fillers. So in this context, it means to rest, to be happy, to be content, to be glad, to do good to someone, to repose, to be at rest, or to go to rest, or to set, like setting of the sun, or to rely upon, to be at peace with. And then these are the different, some other ways that you would write it in glyph, but the main one is this mat or the table. It's a slab of stone or metal or wooden tablet, which was used as a table for offerings, as an altar. The altar, hall of the tomb, a place of peace or perpetuation, a shrine of God. Now, there's a group, there's this brother, they do this Sesh Medunecher, and so he has like a number of books, and this is one, A Beginner's Introduction to Medunecher, the Ancient Egyptian Hieroglyphic System. And just looking at the words Hotep, these are some of the meanings that he says. Hotep, which includes meaning sacrifice. Here are a few examples seen below. Offering table, food offerings, to be satisfied, to be pleased, to be content, to make content, contented one, oblation, also depending on the way you would write it, basket, incense, God, evil plot, and it gives the references here, a pardon, to be pleased with, be happy, be gracious, the name of the blessed dead, provided with incense. So there's a number of meanings associated with Hotep, priest, an item of furniture, peacemakers, lady of Uraeus. Uraeus is that cobra at the top on a crown. Gracious, Federation vegetables, and I need to look that up. Good weather, censor, wild catch. Wonder what that means. All right. Now, there's a lot of stuff on it. Let me pause here. Let me just see who's all here. All right, Asata, Shango, Damani. Who's that on the iPhone there? Who's that? Youssef, glad to see you. You pay attention to the road.
Brother Herman Hill.
Herman, all right, cool. Okay, yeah. So I'm glad to see everyone. All right. So, there's bad things about Hotep, because some of us really go too far. We carry things too far. I remember when I first started growing my locks, people would say, only use your own hair to type. They would have these prescriptions that you needed to follow and things, and and that could really get on people's nerves. So on the one hand, yeah, we want to know our history, but you know, don't beat people over the head with it. You know what what is the phrase? A new convert is always the most zealous. you know, hey, look, I know this. Let me beat you over the head with it. Let me. So, all right, I'm going to keep going. Um, Anybody want to stop me here?
No, keep going.
I'm looking for interaction. You guys can speak in anytime.
Just keep going, Emma.
Just keep going. Okay, were you gonna say something, Tony? Go ahead.
Impo, your earlier display when you took the picture setting,
Yes.
the second when you were explaining, you said when he would poke, who was poking their head through?
So a physician, doctor,
Okay.
medicine person would let's go back to that. And I want to say this to sisters and brothers that this is not orthodoxy either. There would be people, I'm sure, that would argue that because you can't really quantify it, that this isn't really true. Okay, so can you see that?
Yes.
So a person would put their head in here. Okay. Simultaneously, a patient would be on this platform. And somehow it had to do with the water running here. And this whole area was set up vibrationally. Vibration and frequency is very important in many of these structures. And so by that person putting his head in there, he was able to see what was going on with the person standing on this platform. That's what I'm and the person who's like the supervisor, the chief physician would sit here, and he would be supervising the healing or the diagnosis that would take place.
I was just sort of I don't know why it took my mind to a Catholic's confession booth.
My father, I'm from a mixed marriage. My father's a Catholic, my mother's a Baptist. So I got stuff in my head I'm still trying to get out. But I never thought about that. That never came to my mind. Any other observations? Any other questions? Good point. It said just keep going. So yeah, gonna keep going. So you have all of these different definitions. So let me go back here. So these people, Sesh Medunecher, here's another book. Has the Egyptian hieroglyphic system been deciphered? It's another book there. And then they also have this one, simplified Sesh Medu Necher penmanship, a lesson in Egyptian hieroglyphic writing. So a lot of study if you want to investigate. So I think where I left off. So this sister here, Miranda Lovett, along with a lot of other people, okay. So she wrote this article in 2020, almost 4 years ago, reflecting on the rise of the Hoteps. An anthropologist looks at a U.S. subculture inspired by ancient Egypt and its efforts to foster a particular Black identity. Let me stop there. So like we're in a subculture, so if you want to focus on the Nile Valley cultures and things like that, then so anthropologists and others have put us in a subculture. They got to classify you some kind of way. You know what though? And this is my favorite. My favorite principle of the Nguzo Saba is Kujichagulia, self-determination, to define, name, create, and speak for ourselves. But okay, somebody's writing this. I don't know, maybe they got money to write this article. But anyway, this is some of the things that she's saying. And so she says, the term Hotep comes from the ancient Egyptian word for to be at peace and is sometimes used in contemporary Black culture as a greeting. Despite the positive connotations of the word, the term has come to be used not so lovingly. The label was put upon this microculture by outsiders to others, those seen to have problematic beliefs and opinions. The term belongs in the same category as other microculture labels like hipster for someone who is pretentiously trendy, or WASP for someone white, privileged, Protestant, and elitist. Pinpointing when and where this definition of Hotep arose is difficult. Its popularity is growing on Twitter and Instagram as Hotep content, as Hotep content, icon, photos, cartoons, memes spread these ideas. So she's and then she gets into it's a long article. You can look it up. This is the title of it, reflecting on the rise of Hoteps, and an anthropologist looks at the U.S. subculture inspired by ancient Egypt and its efforts to foster a particular Black identity. So you can do a search on that. So as we continue, then she says these things that I'm not too happy with. Okay. In the early 20th century, at a time when Blacks were very much politically, economically, and socially disenfranchised in the United States, Afrocentrists like Molefi Asante, it's Dr. Molefi Asante, and Black scholars like W.E.B. Du Bois highlighted a relationship between ancient Egypt and modern Black Americans in order to instill a sense of pride for Black achievement. However, these links contain the implicit, inaccurate assumptions that all ancient Egyptians would have physically resembled those who self-identify as Black today, and that all modern Black people can trace their lineage to ancient Egypt. Nevertheless, these ideas have trickled down into the mainstream. Many of my Black family members and friends have Egyptian-esque decorations in their homes to celebrate Black culture and pride. Okay, this is where the anthropologist thing is. And then she says, ironically, perhaps, recent research has shown that early Egyptians were mostly lighter skinned. Genetically, Egyptians did not mix with darker skinned sub-Saharan peoples until the last 1500 years, well after the end of the native Egyptian dynasties. I have seen the ancient word for the Nile Valley, Kemet, which translates as black land, used as evidence that black people lived in Egypt. Actually, it refers to the black fertile soil of that region.
He
So,
was paid to put that part in there.
yeah, I just took little pieces of her article, but I wanted to include this picture, these pictures. So, it's always presented like, you guys, you're exaggerating that like there's a barrier between the Sahara, people sub-Sahara, below the Sahara in the southern regions. They didn't make it to the northern regions, and these people were, they got all kind of different names for them. Okay, go ahead, Keity, go ahead. I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you could back up to that previous panel, the author of that statement kind of blew their credibility in the first sentence,
Yeah.
attributing Malefi Kete Asante to the early 20th century is absolutely absurd. His works began to appear around the 1970s, and he's a huge body of work. So how they could have allowed an error like that, not even mentioning some of the scholars of that era who were linking us, such as Drusilla Dundee
Houston. Yes.
Her work could not, should not, would not be overlooked when she wrote, I believe, her book, The Ancient Egyptians of the Kushite Empire.
It was called Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire. Yes.
And that book cannot be overlooked. That would have been attributed to that time span. So the author's credibility is blown for me in the first sentence. I agree with you, Baba Imhotep, for being very reluctant to even put this misinformation out.
You know what? Okay, that's the way it's been presented in an overall view. So yeah, Malefi Asante actually coins the phrase Afrocentricity.
Correct.
Okay, and then but you're right. Okay, somebody like W.E.B. Du Bois, he's around the time of Garvey when he's writing, and he goes to Ghana, kind of has a change of heart, but he's always looking at the history of Black people. But these are two, you're right, they're two different eras.
That's right.
Then there's Joel A. Rogers.
J.A. Rogers, that's right.
There's John G. Jackson. There's anyway. there's a lot. But anyway, that person, maybe they're trying to make themselves look good to their European peers. I don't know what
it sounds to me like a college student maybe writing this as part of a grad thesis or something like that, maybe, to appease professors that have long had a strong anti-Kushite bias.
Yes. But you know what? She wrote this in 2020. We should get beyond that. But anyway, so I'm glad you said that. But okay, go ahead, Herman. Go ahead.
It's kind of disappointing because it's even though the inconsistencies that Kitty pointed out are excellent, but it seems to be part of a trend to diminish some of our ancient historical perspectives. I mean, Hotep is becoming a demeaning term among some of the more youth and the more radical that have radical political analysis, and Afrocentricity seems to be getting pushed to more of a misogynistic type of culture that is to be dismissed and not given its proper place and perspective in today's political analysis of some of the youth that I run into. I find it very discouraging that they would diminish our ancestors in this way as opposed to building upon them. I mean, even prior to Martin Delaney was also an Egyptologist or chematologist himself. So
yes.
this goes back to very ancient times. The people were African. Everything is oriented to the south. The more south you go, the darker they get. The older the empire, the older the dynasty, the older the age, the more darker they are. I mean, it's just for these type of statements to come out, it's just very discouraging. That's all I got to say.
I don't know if you, and this is why I don't like this person, and I don't want you to be affected by my not liking this person, but what's the guy that I can't think, Henry Louis Gates.
Oh, I can't stand him.
So
Too late.
so the first time I saw him, he this was like in the 90s, I want to say, and he did this program on Africa. It was like, I don't know, maybe about 6 weeks. You know, like he went to different places. And he started out with Egypt, and he basically said the ancient Egyptians weren't black people. You know, and then he went to like Ethiopia. Yeah, Skippy. That's right, Skip. Yeah. Thank you. Somebody put that in the chat. Yeah. So then he went to Ethiopia, and the Ethiopians say that they have the Ark of Covenant there. And so he went to like one of their sacred places, and he was like, is it really there? It was, you know, he was just going back and forth. You know, like if you go to somebody's sacred place, you know, you would have a certain reverence. You would take shoes off, or you know, have some kind of reverence for that. And then, you know, just wherever he went in Africa, he just made a joke out of it. You know, and I haven't liked him since. And then I saw this. What's that brother? That Ethiopian brother that used to do. Oh God, I can't think of his name. But he used to do documentaries too. And what was it? Was it Kitty?
That would be Haile Garima, Sankofa.
Yeah, that guy. So no, it's Ali Mazrui.
Yeah, Ali Mazrui.
It's Ali Mazrui. So Ali Mazrui, you know, he was just appalled by the things that Lewis Jones did. And you know, when he got jammed up that time by the police at his pad, and Barack Obama ended up having him and the white officer at the I was like, good.
A beer summit.
Yeah. What you say? What you say, Shago?
A beer summit.
A beer summit. Yeah. Yeah. You know, so there's going to be thank you, Bill. Bill put that in. The history of the Ethiopian church is notable irrespective of Skippy. Yeah, he goes by Lewis. You know, and he has a show now where he likes to go into your DNA and do all this stuff, and I just can't stand the guy. But I don't want you be influenced by me. You know, he might say something that's worthwhile to you. So I don't want to take that away. But, you know, just in terms of our people, and I know sometimes it seems like we're beating it to death, but these are Black people. You know, these are just kind of like, if you were to see these people, if they were to step out of their statues, it would just be like somebody in your family, you know, somebody you went to school with, you know, uh, and and the thing about it is they're still wearing the same ethnic clothing that they were doing in the ancient time. Go ahead, Kitty.
Yeah, just real quickly,
Mhm.
when they refer to quote unquote ancient Egyptians,
Yes.
we have to understand that the Greek conquest, Alexander the Barbarian's conquest of the Nile Valley Delta, probably around 600 years before the Common Era, that area had already been intermingling with the Western Asians, the Caucasians, the Persians, the Hyksos, the Assyrians. All of those had been coming into that area for well over a millennia. And
Yes.
so when they talk about ancient Egyptians, we might ask the question, are you talking about the oldest Greeks? Or are you talking about the Nubians, the Cushites, the land of Punt, and these ancient Nile Valley dwellers who called themselves Tamari, they called themselves Kemet, they called themselves other names, but by the time the term Egypt is brought in to describe that area, we have to understand there's been at least a millennia of conquest and racial mixing. I think that's a very important point. So I always listen carefully when they use this term ancient Egyptians. For me, I have to distinguish, are they talking about the oldest conquistadors or conquistadors, or are they talking about the empires that predated the Greek conquest?
You know what? You're right, Kitty. But you know, something else to think about is um, back in those ancient times, they didn't use the word Egypt.
There was a Greek introduction.
Yeah, they wouldn't even know what you were talking about
That's right.
if you if you were to say that.
So nowadays, when people make these statements like that, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
we're
think-
gonna get bad. Somebody else want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say I think that Kitty's point is an excellent one, and I think that is what contribute to some of the confusion. Is that some scholars or students or what have you, they only count from the Greek conquest, and they begin their terminology and determination of what is Egyptian at that point. But there's a whole lot of other history that comes before that, and the geography and everything at that time um, included a lot of other nations, especially the nation of Nubia, which more and more is looked up as a precursor to
Yes.
Kemet.
Yes.
And the spinoff from that is that there is pushback against, especially African Americans, who who really kind of come out or stand out as perhaps the chief target, because we have been not necessarily pushing it, but we've been talking about it, we've been studying, and we've been sharing. And so a lot of the people that occupy Kemet right now, as well as a lot of Europeans, they're, to a certain extent, they are in league. They don't want the true knowledge of ancient Kemet to be told, because of the grandeur that those earlier civilizations depicted, and so they want to narrow the definition, narrow the definition so they can shut out all of the rest of this history. And another thing in regard to the lady that wrote the article, I find it strange that she was able to just ignore Dr. Ben Yukonin, because, like you said, Minister Hotep, he was probably the first to really validate our existence and our path in pursuit of the Wose community back in 82 when he came. And he talked very much about it and really got us fired up about it. And since then, there's been a lot of other information that have come out that tends to continue to solidify our claim that those civilizations were African civilizations. And I think we should never relinquish that position, especially during the period of time when all of the great building projects took place, the Great Pyramids and all of that. All of that was done prior to the invasion of the Greeks. Who were these people? Dr. Dakwa, that I like to refer to frequently, I think he gives us some insights into that, because he argues that the ancient Egyptians were the people that occupied that area, the Akan people, made up of different nations. He says there's like 11 of them, and he makes some of his arguments through linguistics, and he's saying that in fact that most of the priesthood and many of the designers and builders and many of the pharaohs, they came out of the Akan nations. They were Asante. They were Yoruba. They were can't think of the other name, but it was like about 11 of these nations.
So like among the word Akan is like an umbrella for those 11 tribes. So there's Ashanti, Fanti, on that note, we're kind of getting off a topic, but one of those tribes that is very interesting to me is one of them is called Asin with an A, which he connects to the Essene, which John the Baptist was. So there's like 11 tribes that so he looks at names like so instead of Joseph, Osafo, Mary, Omari. Anyway, that would be another session. I'm glad you brought it up, but let's because it'll take me way off on the. Oh, there you go. There's Sebastian's holding it up. The Africans who wrote the Bible.
Sebastian got that book? Right
Yeah,
on, Sebastian.
yeah.
It's a good one, man.
Yeah. Nana Banchi Darkwa. Yeah. That's a very good book. I don't know if he was an English professor here in the United States. He's from Ghana. I don't know if he's still teaching. When did he write that book, Sebastian?
Right here it says, was it 1946?
Wow.
I guess this is one of the original one.
Oh, okay, because I didn't get it till like
Oh yeah.
90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna change the pace a little bit. So this is the negative side of Hotep. Okay. So that sister, she started it. She's observed it. But here's somebody put this in, and I put the negative side of the term Hotep. Hotep, a person who is pro-Black, but only when it benefits Black males. Commonly indicated by a shallow historical perspective of the African diaspora, misogynistic rhetoric, and a tendency to believe conspiracy theories and unvalidated claims and absolve Black men of responsibility for issues plaguing Black communities while concurrently blaming Black women. Don't be a Hotep. Wow.
Don't be an angry Black feminist.
That's bad. And then here, I don't like that N word. But this is what a Hotep N word is: a Black person who knows nothing about Black history outside of ancient Egypt. Hotep N words will attribute anything and everything to Egypt while ignoring the rest of Africa and the Far East. The majority Hotep N words have no sincere interest in Black history, as they are only looking for an alternative to monotheistic religion. So, I mean, there's some people that really have some strong views about this. This might be somebody from the Hebrew Israelites, which is another group that, okay, not everybody agrees with. And I'm going to keep going. Now, you can see the name Hotep in the name Imhotep, and this is how you would write it. That flowering reed, the owl, and then that HTP, that offering table, the loaf, and then that box. It's actually something else. I don't, but for me it's a box, so that's why I put it. And here it is written in stone. And this is a representation. This is how Imhotep is usually presented. He's got an open scroll. He's seated. And you know what I noticed that I'm noticing a lot? These collars, you know, you see them among the people in Ethiopia. You see them among the people in Kenya. You see them among the people in South Africa. Like there's a picture of a young Nelson Mandela, and he's got that collar. It's very significant in Black life. When I first changed my name and I came to work, I was working at Children's Hospital, and I said, my name is Imhotep. And then there was another operator there. His name was Eddie. And he was the first person to call me Imo. And then years later, I found out that Imo in Kiswahili and in Medu Nature, it means it is within, it is in outside, it is inside, rather, it is included in. So then there's this book. Now this is going back. This is not written by an African, but it's a book called Imhotep, the Egyptian God of Medicine. It was first published in 1926. And in this book, it shows like a 25 generational pedigree, a list of architects, beginning with Conifer, Imhotep's father, and then Imhotep. And then I found this out after I named my son Rahotep. That Imhotep's son's name was Rahotep, and he was the secret seer of Heliopolis. Heliopolis is a Greek word for Anu. So my son's name is Rahotep Anu. I had no idea. We just named him that, and then I found this out, you know, like a few years later.
The spirit was guiding you.
Yeah. So we talked about this last time. We talked about the Medu Necher, and there's this website called the Kiswahili Bantu Research Unit for the Ancient Egyptian Language, and one of the articles is Hotep. And so this is what he says. He says that in Kiswahili, it would be pronounced Hutapo, you know, and would have the same meaning, always to be in a state of peace wherever you are. Hutapo. And he breaks down each syllable, who, habitual, customary, always, usually, tau, to go down, to sink, of the sun, to be at rest, to be settled, to be at peace, security, and then po is where, when, while. So, you know, this, and he wrote this in 2007. That was around the same time that we were meeting with Dr. Obenga. His name is Ferg Somo. And then here, Ferg wrote this book years later, Linguistic Ties Between Ancient Egyptian and Bantu, and uncovering symbiotic affinities and relations in vocabulary. So this is a very good book. And he also has some YouTube videos out. If you look under this guy's name, Fergus Sharman. And then this sister is becoming one of my favorites because she's using her Bantu language spoken in Southern Africa and in the Great Lakes region to break down the ancient Egyptian language and to let us know, no, it's not a dead language. That people are still speaking this today. And so she's doing a great job. She actually has a part 3. She's looking at the judgment scene, and she's taking each column and deciphering it. So very good. I highly recommend her. And this is what she says about Hotep. So HTP, foremost generous giver. And she says it's Hatupa. And when you remove the vowels, it's HTP. Hatupa, foremost generous giver. And here it is again, where she's breaking these things down. Rest, to go to rest, to become at peace, setting of the sun, peace, contentment, Hatupa, contentment, foremost giver. And I wrote to her, and then she wrote back. She said, "Thank you for your support. I will send you an email so we can connect and share this exciting history." So I'm looking, really trying to get her to come to this Black Knowledge Matters. So it's something that I'm working on. Hope that she can make it. Now, when I was looking at these tables, this offering mats, I found a lot of different mats. There's a priest offering food and drink to a netter. It's associated with offering of food and drink. The sign HTP itself consists of a mat, the bread loaf indicating an offering associated with food. We find primarily artifacts of offering tables in the shape of the Hotep sign with Sesh Medu Necher hieroglyphics writings along with various foods. Some of these tables have deeper holes used for liquids. The overall meaning deals with an offering in the form of food and drink. And then we have some examples. So here again, this right here in this picture, this is a Hotep table. Roughly translated, to be satisfied, to be at peace. The word also refers to an offering, ritually presented to a deity or dead person, hence to be pleased, be gracious, to be at peace. It is rendered in Egyptian hieroglyphics as an offering table. This is Gardiner. Most people, when they're studying the Medu Neter, they refer to Alan Gardiner. So here it's an R4, it's an offering table, means peace, contentment, etc. So he also says here, Davies interprets the concept of Hotep as the result of the action in accordance with Ma'at, the proper order of the universe. And there's an offering, there's a Hotep offering formula that we're not going to go into, but you know, I started going into Hotep, and then here are the various Hotep offering mat and tables. It's really involved. There is a Commission, Kemetic person there at the offering table. So let me pause there. Any questions? Is this boring? Should we go on to something else? Let's talk about, no. Any thoughts, any questions? Comments?
Oh no, it's interesting. I didn't know the word.
Sorry, Damani, you cut off. Say again.
Oh, no, much. Yeah, greeting table and everything.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I think it's more related to sacrifice. I do. But you know, it has various meanings. I mean, that main glyph is that offering table. That main glyph. Go ahead, Isali. Go ahead. Take yourself off mute though.
Peace and blessings. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, let me put this on speaker. Kind of going back to what you were saying a little earlier, I wanted to say something because my married name is Rahotep, as a lot of y'all may know, and my husband changed our last name to Rahotep. So as millennials, we embrace having that, we embrace that name. And so I think social media has a lot to play into the negative connotations. Because like when people talk, so a lot of people can be really loud on social media and saying, like, they'll say Hotep. Like at one point, people would have a negative connotation to people who said queen or queen and stuff like that. Hello?
Go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead.
And they'll be like, oh, the brother that always calls you a queen, he still cheats on you or something like that, right? They'll just put the most negative connotation that has to do with it. But a lot of those people are very loud on social media. So people who are first introduced to it are only introduced to the negative connotation because these people are loud. And now social media is so big. So as millennials, we see that a lot. And so like some people, like when I tell them, like I do Kemetic Reiki, which is ancient Egypt. Like I have to remind, no, I'm talking ancient Egypt. Okay. I'm not talking about the Egyptians that they try to, most people forget that Egypt is in Africa, so people kind of have like this ignorance towards it. And I just try to tell people, well, even if my direct bloodline isn't ancient Egypt, my spirituality and what I follow is. And so, like if you're a Christian or whatever you follow, that doesn't mean you have to be like, well, is that what you're, is that your direct ancestors? People have like this negative, they kind of can get negative about it sometimes. So I have to remind people like, well, this is my spirituality. This is what I follow. This is very positive. This has been going on for years and years. We are the original people. Before there was even a negative connotation, we use the 42 laws of Mayat to govern our people, so. But yeah, that's probably a big problem is people are really loud on social media doing the reels and all of that. And those are the ones that and the scholars, they're too busy to be on social media. They in the books and the real stuff is in the books. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're not introduced to it through the books and you're only introduced to it through social media, then, so that's a big part that plays into it.
Thank you for saying that, and I'm glad that you know what, we are really glad that you and your husband are with us. One, for your spirit, and then two, I talked to Jabari earlier today. As a matter of fact, I talked to him on the phone earlier today. But the other thing is, I forget that you guys are millennials. You guys are, I mean, I know that you're young people, but I forget, like, oh yeah. And then I have to think, oh, I'm a baby boomer. I'm at the end of the, you got all these, I'm a baby. Me and Doris are like at the end of baby booming. And
No. We baby boomers who choose to be, we're just passing the middle.
Is that what okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Isali. That's a really good point.
You're welcome.
Social media is good and it's bad. It's it has some good aspects, but then it has some like anyway, let's keep going. Any other
real fast,
go ahead.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Google last night. I Googled the word Hotep and I saw that negative connotation. You scroll down and you see that negative connotation connected to the word Hotep. I wonder who created that on Google. I wonder how can we challenge that and tell that's a bunch of nonsense. Yeah.
I think you got to catch it.
That's a good point.
When you can, some people you can't, for some people the earth is flat, and you can't convince them. No matter what you say, no matter how many pictures I put up, and so that's why I'm just staying with our young people. Because okay, if the world is flat for you, okay, God bless you. Hope you don't fall off the edge. Just I don't know. Sometimes I answer people on social media, but all I end up doing is getting frustrated. That's really all I end up doing, and it's that they don't want to know, and sometimes they just do it just to upset people. So you know what? Some people, if they were face to face with you, they wouldn't do that. They would not do that. But okay.
Or they wouldn't get away with it.
They wouldn't get away.
My observation is when I first started noticing this negative connotation, people calling us them Hotepers.
Yeah.
It emerged out of what appears to me to be an Upper East Coast, mostly New York City, amongst the Gen X YouTube battlers. If you can recall going back, there were all of these angry YouTube debates.
Yes.
And I've been a YouTuber, was a YouTuber for many, many years. They banished my account this year because of COVID-19 research that I would not stop publishing. But that I'm pretty sure that emerges out of this group of people. And I could name some names, but why waste your time with names that are irrelevant at this point, where we started to see these battles coming up. One thing that I noticed at the same time, and it just shows you kind of the decline, the degeneration of grace amongst Black public spokespersons, is that in the same arena, the language got progressively fouler and fouler and fouler. And I, at a certain point, was standing up and telling these people, no, you're not allowed to curse elders of your community. Even if you disagree, there are certain limitations that we grew up with in our generation, quite simply and correct me if I'm wrong, adults were not allowed to hear us using curse words and foul language.
No, you could not do that. No.
It was nowadays you have young people. I'm not going to blame this on the millennials. I think the Generation X was kind of an experiment that kind of went wrong. But I have heard young people curse their mother and their father in the worst, harshest language. Quite simply, in our generation, it was unthinkable. I would think that if my father ever heard me or my brothers make curse words against the elders of our community, he wouldn't even have whooped us. He would have went in the closet and grabbed a suitcase and donated that suitcase to us and said, whatever you do, fine, but you're not going to live in my house.
You couldn't do it.
I hope some of my baby boomer sisters and brothers can relate to what we're sharing right now.
No, I think everybody on this everybody here can relate to that. You would not say that to your mother. You would not say that to see Ed came on camera. You would not say that to your camera. To your mother. You would not say that to your father. God, I mean, it wouldn't even occur to you to do that, but now it's just open. Let me keep on going. Thank you all. So I went to this place. It's called Dashur, and what's significant about this is it's this place where this is the red pyramid here, and you see that little hole there, and you could barely see it on there, but there's like pathways going up to it. And this is the pathway going up to, this is how you would get in the red pyramid. And then there's also the bent pyramid. The corners are knocked off. And then there's this black pyramid. It's made out of silt. And these are all like, like if you're standing, like say here, and you look this way, you see that one, you turn around, you see the bent one, you turn to the left, you see the red pyramid. Well, in this area here is this place. It's the small Hotep. So here I am. I'm going to it here, and when you get inside, there's that same glyph, the offering mat, offering table, and you go in there to feel the vibration, and so here I am seated by there to feel the vibration. And even though it's millennia, you can still feel something there. But this is where I want to go. I want to go to this place called Abu Ghurab, and that sounds like that prison camp that they had for the Iranians during that war. But 6 miles southeast of Cairo, just north of Abu Sur, is one of the only 2 kingdom sun temples known to have survived, although it is believed that many others existed and were destroyed, fell into ruin, or haven't been found yet. The building of the Sun Temple was the result of the gradual rise in the importance of the sun god. This is somebody's interpretation of it. During the Old Kingdom, Ra became like a state deity. The ruins at Abu Ghraib were once the Sun Temple of Per-Ah. I don't even know how to pronounce that name. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. The upper temple included 60 foot high pedestal supporting 118-foot obelisk, symbol of the sun god. An altar was built directly in front of the obelisk. To the east, in the court open to the sun, the altar was made of 5 huge white alabaster blocks, which were arranged to form a symbol meaning Ra is satisfied. So again, here's that symbol. Next time if I'm blessed enough to go to Kemet, I want to go to this place here. I want to take a picture. I want to be seated here. Somebody put something in the chat. Let me look at it here. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Bill. So now in the book, The Land of Osiris, Stephen Mailer points this place out. And in the documentary called Pyramid Code, Abdul Hakim Awayan is talking about, they're talking about this because they can't make this nowadays, or it would have to be some high precision tools to get this structure made. So I highlighted a couple of things. It is in the shape of the Commission symbol Hotep, translated by Egyptologists as satisfied or peace, but it's also translated by Dr. J.O. Kinnaman as an offering table. It is this last translation that seems to be the most significant here, as it seemed obvious to me the structure was an altar for offering. The rounded curves, contoured angles of the alabaster Hotep again indicated the use of a sophisticated machining technology that did not appear to have been accomplished by hand with copper chisels. And so there's a whole just study on that. This guy named Christopher Dunn wrote a book, and the title will come to me, but it's looking at the scientific precision that a lot of things are made in Kemet. So moving on, Abu Ghraib is the site that must be experienced to fully appreciate its importance. Hakim has always emphasized its importance to me, as he believes it to be one of the oldest occupation or ceremonial sites in all of Kemet, if not the whole planet. There is no doubt it is a very sacred site to the Cometians, both to the ancient and dynastic people who constantly returned to there on pilgrimages for an apparent ritualistic reasons. Alabaster, as well as granite, basalt, limestone were used extensively in the area to create physical as well as spiritual effects through the use of vibrations, which opened the senses and stimulated heightened awareness to communicate directly with the netters. The Cometians venerated and returned to this site for thousands of years in sacred pilgrimages. And so there's this other there's these other structures that are in this shape, and somebody was saying that they were used for animal sacrifices, but they've never been able to find any blood or anything. it was used to communicate. Let's see. So this last part of it says the alabaster granite, basalt, and limestone created a harmonic resonance through sound vibrations to increase the heightened awareness and to further open the senses to communicate and be one with the netters. These are the teachings of the indigenous Commission tradition, that these sites were used to benefit all the people, the Sesh, not for the service solely of royalty as their burial places. So again, so you can see here this precision, just to get this. And you can see people standing next to it. So you get an idea of how big it is. So there are names of Per-Az or pharaohs. So there's different names where Hotep is used: Mantu Hotep, Amenemhet, Hotep Ibre, Sobek Hotep, Nefer Hotep, Ra Hotep. Akhenaten, before he changed his name, was Amenhotep the fourth. And then there were persons that were not Per-Az or royalty that had the name, this queen in the first dynasty, Neth Hotep, Imhotep, Ptahhotep, Kamun Hotep, all these different Hoteps. And then here, I like this statue. It's a block statue of Hotep. And like many of the statues, his nose is cut off.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming to the end here. And instead of just saying Hotep, I'll just say Nedger Ek, light and peace to you. Thank you for coming. All right. So we have about 10 minutes. Let's, what do you think of that? You know, I was talking to Sister Keisha on Sunday, and she was talking about the word sacrifice, and I had to say, hey, look, you know, sacrifice is important. You know, what we're doing is sacrifice. You know, what we're doing at Wose Community is sacrificial. A lot of time, you know, we sacrifice our time. What do we say? Time, talent, our resources, you know. Damani, I know, does a lot of sacrifice for the community. Ed does sacrifice. Katabasi, Tony is doing sacrifice. Akiti, he's written like 30 books. I know that sacrifice right there. So yeah, Zarita, Bill, Mama Ngina, all of us are engaged in some type of Hotep or Hatupa. You know, we're engaging in some kind of way. All right, let me stop talking and let you, if you would like to say something.
I want to make a quick correction. Excuse me there, Ed. The book I found is actually 2000. I think the 1946 that I'm seeing in here was probably when the author Nana Banchi Darkwa was born.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's 2000. Go ahead, Ed.
All right.
I want to say thank you to Sister Sally for educating me on how the negative connotations to the Hotep are being perpetrated on social media. Thank you, sister, for informing.
Yes, yes.
I
Yes.
have a question.
Yes, yes. Hi.
So
Hi.
Emma, hello everyone. So Emma, you said instead of saying Hotep, you were going to say, and I apologize, I don't remember the word.
Oh,
But what's
Nedger. So I asked my friend. I don't like to call his name because well, I'll just say I won't. I'll just keep his name quiet. But I sent him a message. I said, "Hey, did people say Hotep back in the day?" And he said, "No." He said they said Nedger Ek, light and peace to you.
so does anyone aside from us currently have they said Ankh Ujab Seneb?
You know, now that was used a lot. I first found out about this. I read a book. It was called A God Against the Gods, and this was in the 70s. And and it's usually referred to people that are royal. You know, they would say life, prosperity, and health to whoever was the per or you know who was the chief priest or you know venerated elder, etc. So no, life, prosperity, and health was used a lot, but Hotep, I think, because okay, you have peace. You know, a lot of us in the African American community came out of Assalamu alaikum, you know, or salam. So, you know, so when we found out that Hotep, part of it meant peace, we started using it, but it wasn't necessarily used in the ancient times.
Thank you.
Mhm. But now, okay, I'm not the sole authority. There'll be somebody who's a researcher that will get on and say, no, I don't agree, and you know, list a lot of different things. Let me just tell you when I'm talking to you, and I usually try to preface it this way, you're getting the Imhotep version. Okay, and that's why I try to say, okay, other people are going to say this, so that you'll be prepared. You know, okay, yeah, I'll argue up and down with a person, you know, if I feel up to it, but there's more than one way to look at things, and we have, you know, the Europeans they said, okay, this is the way it's pronounced, and then we just started, we just took up what they suggested, and but like that sister is pointing out, they're still speaking the language. It's not a dead language. They still speak it today. Go ahead, Isali, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Sorry.
But you know, Imho, go ahead.
I just wanted to, just my personal opinion, like you said, there's multiple ways of looking at it. Because we're embracing our last name Rahotep, I know personally I would still like to use the greeting Amin Rahotep, Arhotep, because I want to show the righteous way of doing things and the righteous way of living. And so with pride will still say that because I want to counteract the negative connotation towards it.
That's very good. You know what? Hold on just a second, Ed. We had a Kwanzaa one time, and the person that was coming to pour libation, he was a Nigerian, and he was a priest, but he was late, and so we ended up having someone else pour libation, and you know, he came later, and he said this to me. He says, you all do a no-no. I said, what are you talking about? He said, he said, you all let women pour libation, and you let children pour libation. He said, we don't do that. He was an Igbo. He says, we don't do that in my culture. And I had to tell him, I said, hey, look, man, we're new Africans. You know, yeah, it's all right for women to pour libation. It's all right for children to pour libation in our thing. So I'm with you on that point. Go ahead, Ed, and then Sebastian. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it seems like the more we study our history, the more evidence it is that we are only scratching the surface.
Yes, that is true. Just to make another Kemet reference, do you know that they've speculated they've only found 20% of the monuments and things like that in Kemet? That there's stuff under the ground right now that they probably know about, but you know, okay, just look at Cairo. I've heard figures between 10 million and 30 million people live there. You know, so you don't want to get your pad, disrupted, people digging and stuff underneath your thing. But yeah, we're only scratching the surface. That is right. That is right. If I look back where I started in 1976 to now, you know, it just blows my mind. That's very good, Ed. Go ahead, Sebastian.
And to sort of that's the beauty of having forums like this, is with all of the pushback that you get, people only know what they know. And if they don't reach out to get something other than what is told to them, or research what was told to them, a very great thing that I got from Dr. Robinson years back, he says, books. He said, but not just the books, take the books to the books. Because anybody can write a book, but you got to research where they got their information from.
You know what he's talking about? You got many of you don't know. Reverend Robertson was a man. He had a varied life. He used to be a detective. He had a construction company, and he did all this research. He knew so much about the Bible, and when he would go into churches, the ministers would start shaking. You know.
Yes.
And he could run down so many things in so many different ways. Reverend Robertson, really, we should pour libation for him every day.
Yes, we should.
Reverend Robertson, and toward the end, he went blind.
Yeah.
But he was like 91, 92, something like that.
You know, he was like a John Henry Clark. His memory was. He would, take you to a book, and you would come back the next week, and he would just say, like, Imho, start on page 300, right in the middle of the paragraph, and you would start to read, and he would just pick it up and verbatim from memory, just recite what he's trying to tell you to read. And it was probably a book that we don't know how long ago he read it.
Yeah, his name was Reverend Ray Robertson, and I got some of the books that he had, and I'll share those with you. All right, it's 6:30, and we're getting ready for the Women of Wosei, which they discriminate. They don't allow men to come. Okay. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for coming. Next week, Michelle Sunshine will be our presenter. So come and support her. All right, Connie, I'm going to make you the host. And thank you everyone for their attendance and for their contribution. All right, guidance and protection, life, prosperity, and health. Let me save this chat before. All right, live up.